Jeannie Dougherty is a money expert and mental fitness guide for professionals that want to create change without going into debt. And she also helps entrepreneurs get that vital and stable cash infusion. Jeannie helps them rewire their money brain and make their money work for them.
You are listening to Wealthy Advisor Mindset Podcast, a show dedicated to helping financial advisors grow their AUM while enjoying a great quality of life by creating a high-performance mindset. Guiding you on this podcast is none other than Nina Cook, a seasoned mindset coach who has worked with hundreds of business owners over the last decade to dissolve all their self-sabotaging behaviors and habits to achieve their business goals so they can have a much bigger impact and make much more money. Throughout the show, we'll deliver actionable strategies to grow your practice more easily and quickly, while revealing the incredible possibilities that emerge when you tap into your best self. Ready for a breakthrough that amplifies your impact and profits? Let's dive in.
We need people like you for sure.
We do.
Please share your journey with us and how you got to be doing this really important work.
Well, I started off as a mental health and substance abuse counselor, which I still am, and I have a very small private practice, but every person I met had a money issue of some kind. So it was something as simple as, how do I pay my rent or my mortgage? How do I have a money conversation with my spouse or partner? What do we do if we have drugs in the family? Like, how do we handle the money? I want to grow my business, but I'm not doing that. How do I do that? And so when I saw them in counseling, people were very anxious and depressed, had trauma, financial trauma. And I would go to my peers, people who'd been practicing way longer than me, and ask them all kinds of money questions. And they'd be like, I don't know. Because secret, a lot of helping professionals, service-based providers are not great with money. And so I was able to get information like financial education from, obviously what's on the internet, but like from an accountant or, advisor, just really normal stuff. And that helped. But what I learned is that, people emotionally feel and think about money very differently. And what happened for me is that both of my parents died of Alzheimer's, and it was a statistical anomaly. There was no previous family history, nothing. And both of them died fairly young of it. And it was sort of like, what happened? My career certainly had to alter because I know what it's like to even be just a part-time caregiver. That was a lot for stuff that I had to do. But it also altered the money piece because we found out that after my mother died, that her estate had been financially exploited by a family member. And so trust went out the window. We went to court. We lost fighting for my mother's estate. And there wasn't anything we could really do except take it as a lesson learned. And it really kind of galvanized me because I'm not the only one this has happened to. When we see it in the news, a lot of times it's millions or billions that people are fighting over. We were just trying to make sure my mother got the care. And this family member did not even provide that.
Oh, dear, I'm so sorry. That's
Yeah. Yeah. So when you have something that is betrayal, that is shocking, you don't think about money and people the same way. And so I really took a personal mission just for myself. I wasn't even thinking about clients or anything like that. I was like, I want to know why this happened, why there was a decade of lying. And, because the family was not all on one side. It wasn't like, oh, it's this person versus that person. It was like this deluge of people getting played against each other. And it was just awful. And I said, I want to know. I want answers. And one day I walked into my dance class because I was taking dance classes for my shocker stress. I'm going through this process. And I saw this flyer on the wall for Dance and Money. And it was a workshop for 4 days. This is obviously pre-pandemic when we could take a little bit longer weekends. I rarely hear people taking longer weekends without taking their laptop and everything with them. And and I met my very first emotional and behavioral money coach. And it was in that moment I was like, oh, is this why this was such a terrible mess? This is why people got really hurt. It wasn't just me. This is why this person kept going and doing the things that they said they didn't do, but clearly we found in court they did. So it's an amazing sort of process for me, just sort of uncovering that. And so I took a year of personal development and said, I'm going to learn all I can about this, money, emotional psychology piece I wanted to learn. And at the end of the year, I said, I think I can do this. I think I could actually become a money coach. I think I was pretty good with my bills, paid them. Owning a business was challenging. That was like a shift when you move from getting paid to owning your own business. That is a shift. But when my mother died, my business was stalling. It was really hard to like figure out what was wrong because where was my energy? What was I upset about? What was I trying not to think about? What was I focused on maybe some of the time when I need to be really laser focused on most of the time, which is like sales and your marketing and things of that nature. So I can appreciate it when people have bad times and their money apple cart literally is like tossed overboard and you're like, well, so much for that. Now what do I do? So that I can really just relate to. But the really good news is why I started my business is that people can rewire their money brain. And I am so passionate about that. That's really where I live now. I don't live in the betrayal, the financial exploitation, but it's true. It does happen. And I'm here to help people become wiser and wealthier with their own money. And if you don't understand enough about your own money, this is why you hire a financial advisor.
Absolutely, yes. So I'm intrigued by your story. It's an amazing story, and there's so much sadness there as well.
Yeah.
So what mindset shifts did you make as you started to understand about your money and your relationship with your money? So, what mindset shifts did you start making about money that helped you?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I had to do an enormous amount of forgiveness work. I had to forgive myself. I had to forgive each family member. I had to forgive my dying mother, or at that time she had passed. I had to forgive the family member who did the betrayal. And then anything else that irritated me, that like, that person didn't pay me once, that kind of thing. And the forgiveness work, what really did it for me, because a lot of times we'll say, okay, I'll forgive, but you don't forget. And that's sort of the piece that we don't understand when it comes to money rewiring. So the forgiveness went like this. And I'm paraphrasing this, I might kind of screw it up, but in the Bible, and you don't have to be a Christian to do this. And if you're like, I hate this method, don't worry, don't do it. There's other ways to forgive. But what I did is I had to write out 35 times in the morning, manually write. You can't type it. You got to pick up the pen or the pencil. And you have to write, I completely forgive said person. You write that 35 times in the morning and you write it 35 times at night and you do it for 7 days. The Bible, it's 490 times. And why does the Bible say to do that? And it's just because you have to do it. Like it's just kind of just written biblical law. You could write it 1,000 times if it's really bad for you. I'm all for it. If you want to do it for a month, you can do that. But how you know when you've gotten to forgiveness is that you're not screaming, you're not crying, you're not clenching in as you have to tell the story. You're not trying to push away whatever feeling is there. You're able to talk about it and be like, and I got through that because I'm on the other side. It's literally a journey to get you to the other side. I want to warn everybody, in my case, because it was so personal and so egregious what had happened. This was not an easy process. So for about a week, I had terrible headaches. My stomach hurt, my back hurt, because that's what I was carrying in my body still, even though I had done like massages and I had gone to dance class and I know how to stretch. It was awful. It was a week of feeling awful. But you know what? At the end of the week, I don't feel awful anymore.
Wonderful. I love this. This is a strategy that anyone listening can just start doing straight away. I love those types of strategies. So when you write, I completely forgive X, do you write, I forgive X and I forgive Y, or do you have to do just X for a week and then you do the next person for a week, or can you do them together,
Well,
If
it's going to
it's-
really be intense if you decide to forgive everybody all at once if it's a bad situation. I'm just going to warn people. But I found for myself is that I did the big people at first, which was my mother.
Just
and the
singly,
person-
one by one, so one person per week.
So it was my mother and then the family member. And then I worked with the other people each week. I even wrote a forgiveness letter to my father, even though my parents were divorced, like, why the hell didn't you step in? And, but he had already passed away. So there was nothing he could do. And this is like, obviously family, like stuff that happened long before people got together with other people and did this and did that, It was really, really powerful. And it also inspired me to create my virtual caregiver conference, which I know is like my passion project, which doesn't always make it on a financial podcast. But I knew that more financial exploitation was happening. I knew more caregivers were dying because of the pandemic, not access to medical care. Even if they did, there wasn't necessarily, the right kind of care. How could they do that with their aging loved one who may not have been well? Like, there's just a lot of stuff going on. So I decided to create the caregiver conference because I thought, if I know what it takes to forgive somebody financial exploitation, I would like to, take this car and like divert it and get us off this road. And the only way to do that is to go public and to shine the light on the complexity of money in families without shaming and blaming people, but also saying, here's what you can do just to help yourself. Like I said, I talk about financially rewiring your brain. I don't sit there and go, let me tell you about nasty people in your family. Not everyone has that. They don't need to be burdened with something that's not going to happen to them. They don't.
Yeah, wonderful. I love this stuff. How do you see money now? How do you feel? Because it's an emotional connection to money, isn't it?
Yes.
How do you feel about money? How are you emotionally connected to it? What's your conversation in your head around money now compared to how it was before you did this work?
Yeah. So my conversation around money at the time before I did this work was like being very focused on when I was getting paid, making sure that I was visible for contracts and, online and being very anxious about any speaking engagements I had to do. I mean, I was just really tight and like, about everything. Now I'm just like, what would I like to do? What would be fun? Here's how I want to handle a money situation. It's not looking good. Client doesn't want to pay me. Instead of me focusing on everything I'm going to do, I can do that. But really, the important thing for me to do is to remind myself that money comes to me easily and it's everywhere. I finally got rid of a client that wasn't paying me regularly and on time. Literally, within 20 minutes, another client walked in. It's not focusing on what's not there, it's focusing on what is.
Exactly. So in a way, it's being grateful
Yes.
for what we have because we are trained, I'd say, by society, by family, and they all mean well.
Yeah.
But to say, well, I haven't got this and I want this. What's the next thing I want? Someone else has got this and I should have it as well. And yearn for things and feel dissatisfied because we haven't got it yet. And this isn't to say don't go for big goals in your life. This is what I teach my clients, think big, really go for big goals. That's where all the growth is. But also be grateful for what you do have. It is one of the most amazing energies ever, isn't it? Just being in the moment and being grateful for something as simple as having a pen, being able to write, being able to hear or speak, or all of these things we just take for granted and don't give any attention to until we lose something big. And then we think, oh, I wish I hadn't taken that for granted.
Yeah. Yes. And I have to remind myself of this quote every day. The power is in the here and now. The power is in the here and now. And then you can take action. And when I think like that, my world is dramatically different and I'm happier. The clients come. I'm able to build strategic partnerships. I'm able to talk about, rewiring folks' money brain in a way that doesn't feel odd or weird or phony or anything like that. It's just me going for it. Like, oh, you want to know? I'll tell you. And people are like, wow, she's an amazing speaker. And I have worked at it. I didn't wake up one day and I was like great at it. No, sorry. I have a lot of failure, but I didn't let it stop me. And that I think is really that resilience of owning a business that we keep forgetting. Is that, well, okay, it may feel like you could start off your first marketing campaign and literally get nothing. You could do your first few sales calls and it doesn't work. But if you go like, I'm going to just keep going, is really where the magic begins. This is really when you become the entrepreneur that maybe you thought you wanted to be. And this is how it like really grows.
Yeah, I think that's so important. You didn't let failure stop you. I had a mastermind call with my clients yesterday and 3 of them said that They were used to be like, yeah, I can do this, I can do that. And they all had what they described as big failures.
Mm,
And they said it changed their mindset. And now they don't want to go for things. They don't want to take risks. They're scared.
yeah.
So they look at failure as a way of stopping growing, a new
Yes.
failure, and so they say, okay, this is going to stop me. So how is this something that you had to work out, or do you just naturally feel like this about failure? Because this is a big thing, isn't that? Stops so many business owners from going forward. They have experienced a failure or a learning event, if you like, if you don't want to call it a failure. And instead of using that as rocket fuel for the next thing and sort of figuring out, why didn't that work? How can I do it differently? They just stop in their tracks and say, I never want to go through that awful feeling again of something not working. Therefore, I'm not going to try anything big again.
Hmm. So this is why I feel mental fitness is sorely undersold and in just our world, not necessarily the money coaching that I do. It takes enormous amount of mental and emotional energy to run a business. And it takes enormous amount of courage to go forward after a disaster, a failure, something that really hurt us. And when you rewire that pain from ugh to, oh, that wasn't bad, or I'll do it again. I'm not going to talk to this person. I'm going to go over here. Then all of a sudden, it's just like doing hopscotch. For those of you who know what hopscotch is, hopscotch was a game that you could learn to jump on one leg, and then you had to figure out when you're going to jump on two. It's just how you move through the space. Maybe you're going to lift your leg, maybe you won't. Maybe you're going to pick up. It's just an activity. It's not your self-worth. And when we can get to that point, it's not that bad. And then people sleep better, they make more money, and they enjoy what they're doing instead of, I have to slave away at my work. Well, that's all internal stuff that shortens your lifespan, gives you more medical conditions, and makes you feel awful about yourself.
It's all about perspective, isn't it? And we can look at any one situation in so many different ways, as we all do. We all have our unique filters,
Yeah.
belief systems, and, ways of thinking, all conditioning that we carry around with us. And we look at an event, not as it truly is, but through all of those filters that we have. And some of them are helpful filters and some of them are very unhelpful filters. But we have to know that that's actually what's going on, and that we can change those filters to give us a better result. And it's, like, well, I had a failure in the past. It's like, well, so what? Is that going to stop you in life? Are you going to retreat into a shell and not, venture out again? Like, it's almost like it doesn't matter. You had so many successes in the past as well.
Yeah.
This is the life that we have to live. And we want to live it as fully and passionately as we can. And holding ourselves back by a memory of something, a setback in the past, when you look at it in that way, it's crazy to allow that to stop us.
Yeah.
So what do you feel is mental fitness?
Mental fitness is really techniques and strategies to wire yourself away from negativity, pain, loss, frustration, and repetition. Like we repeat things over and over until we rewire them to a place of happiness and joy and laughter and freedom. Because people are always like, well, what's like the money making frequency, Jeannie? And I'm just like, well, it's actually being calm. And it's that alert relaxation is actually how the money comes. It's not freaking out. It's not having a meltdown. It's not betting against the market and praying it works out. It's not, it's none of that stuff. But people associate money with power and control. And this is what screws them up completely. And why we end up in the scarcity and comparison and confusion, all the time, because that's part of what I call the money mind virus. That's what we're taught in schools. That's certainly what the media broadcasts. They always have us focusing on the wrong numbers, not what's the right numbers.
So what is it then? If it's not, that about money, what is the healthy way to think about money and the value that you give it in your life so you have a healthy relationship with it?
Yeah. So money's really a journey. So how we start off in childhood and how we learn it is we earn it or we're given it to, like whether we've done chores or no chores, right? You get it for your birthday, you get it for Christmas, but we actually really learn money by watching our parents not telling us about their money mistakes. We really learn by watching how the fact that if somebody loses their job, that they may not be able to figure out how to eat. We learn that if they're making a lot of money and somebody wants to get a divorce, that's going to cut their income and their wealth, their assets in half, and how badly they can fight over that. That's what we really learn. And when we are starting our adult life, our relationships, do we go back to this mere power and control? Or do we try to find a different way? The couples that come to me are looking for a different way, and they'll say, like, nobody told me this. I was told I was not allowed to ask for anything as a child. I was told I couldn't do this. And that's why people keep hitting their glass ceilings when they're running a business. It's because they're still running a money program that is long outdated, but it is very current in their head, telling them, not really worth that. That's why pricing alone in a business is hilarious.
Yeah.
And they have
Because,
no idea. Think this is the best answer because they think it might sell at this price.
but there's that emotional thread between the price that you set and how you value yourself.
Right.
And if that is an alignment, the value that you have for yourself and the price that you set, you're going to find it very, very difficult to ever ask for that price, or you're going to think, because you're going to think you're not worth it on some level and no one's ever going to pay you that much.
Exactly.
In marketing, we see so much written about financial freedom, financial security. This is a promise that's made. What does financial security or financial freedom, what does it mean to you?
Financial freedom means to me that you have the power to make your own money. That's why I always say, I'm here to help you make your money. I want to make your money making work for you, not having to subscribe to an algorithm that's like, well, if you die at this age and you didn't save this money, you're not going to, like the grand assumption is we're all going to make it to our retirement. The hope is we do. And if you make it to your retirement, you most likely will die there. That's a good thing. You're supposed to do that. But, there's a lot of people who are like, why am I killing myself? What am I doing? And living in other countries isn't the answer either. They're like, I got to find a different way. This is why I like tiny homes and living in a shared economy, meaning you might live at somebody's home, but you're going to help take care of them and have reduced rent. And you're good with that. If that works for you, that's wonderful. That's your financial freedom. You're not stuck with a mortgage that you're like, oh, I hope we make it this month, which a lot of families have endured over the centuries, having to pay.
It's kind of having control of your life rather than think, events are going to shape your life and there's very little you can do about it. You're at the mercy, if you like, of the economy and government and all the rest of it. Actually, you've got things in order and you've got a plan and a strategy to keep yourself safe, because financial security is about being safe, isn't it? You can, plan for holidays, you could treat your family, you could do all of those things, have a really nice lifestyle.
Yes.
And you are in control of that, whatever happens, whatever's going on out there.
Exactly.
So that's really, really important. We talked about that you won't let failure stop you. And I'm curious, how do you get over setbacks? Something doesn't go according to plan. It could be your business or any other area of your life. How do you get over that?
Depending on the size of the setback, I mean, if it's like somebody needs to reschedule, I'm not really usually too worried about that. It might be a little frustration, but in the scheduling piece, but I'm okay with that. But if it's like, oh, this large contract was coming my way and it didn't, or it won't be coming for, reasons that you can't see, you can't know everything. Then again, this is one of the most powerful things I learned in my dance when I went to the workshop. I can still hear, his name is Evangelos, his voice in my head. And he says, when it doesn't work out, you pivot to where the money is. And I can hear that voice so clearly. I know we talk about business pivoting all the time, but what we forget is that's where the money is. Not like just, I decided to create a new brand or I'm going to do this. Some people have a brand journey, which is, inventive and amazing. And I always appreciate it. But You don't have to spend all day long rebranding yourself. A lot of times it's pivoting towards that. So what does that mean if it's a sales and marketing concern as a financial advisor? It might mean that you're going to go back to your list of people and start talking to people that you know or following up. It might be that you're going to go talk to this person's competitor if it's a business of some kind or somebody else. It might mean that you're going to talk to some people like your colleagues and ask them about some, referral partnerships and say like, hey, la la la, did you know that I'm available for the following things? And they might go, oh, I didn't know. It might be that you're willing to say, you know what, I could do this speech. I think I'm going to go talk to that person who said they wanted me to go do a talk. And I'm going to go do that. And maybe I'm going to talk to Nina and say, well, how do I put an offer together so that people will know to contact me? Because that's like a whole different thing. Like how, like a speech should like actually get paid. People in the audience go, I will sign up for your thing. Like there's a science to that. That's how you do it. You don't fall apart and be like, oh my God, nothing's ever going to work out. I have to hide under the bed for the next 3 weeks. And it sucks. Don't get me wrong. It sucks when people said, oh, we were going to pay you $300,000, but that bites. However, if your value is $300,000, you can go get that someplace else. Come on. Like you're not asking for 50 cents. 300,000 can come to you from another place. And with all my clients, when that's happened, they end up making money back by the end of the money boot camp that I work with them on that. And by the end of the 90 days, the money comes back to them in some other way. And they go, wow, I had no idea. And it's like, right. Because it's not about that person. You might need to do a little forgiveness work with them if they really irritated you and lied to you and didn't give you the right information, which does happen. Again, what's the money type you're really dealing with? And sometimes you didn't see it. You didn't know. So you can forgive yourself. We don't have to stay in this place of, I need to know everything. You don't. And you really don't know what other people's money brains are going to do under stress. That's something I always remind people. Like, you don't know. We hope they're going to do the right thing. But if they do the selfish thing, you're probably going to get X'd out and you're going to have to find a different way.
Yeah. As you said, it's about you and how you're going to treat this situation, your perspective on this situation. And often I've found that when something hasn't gone right for me, or, there's a situation where I'm thinking this isn't heading the way I want it to go, often I will think, okay, I have to be really resourceful now and think of a different way. And that's when I get probably my best ideas, or I reach out to someone and it's just like this instinct, just email this person or call this person. And it turns out to be the best thing ever. So I think often, these situations arise to give us something even better to think about.
Exactly.
And we always have a choice in how we deal with things. Do we just, as you say, just go and hide under the bed? Or do we say, okay, this is an opportunity. I know it's there waiting for me. So I'm just going to go and find it.
Exactly.
What ideas can I come up with around this? And they can be the best moments. But again, it comes down to what filter are you going to choose to look at this event through. What would you say has been the biggest lesson that life has taught you so far?
The biggest lesson is to really trust your gut with your money brain. A lot of times I used to have a lot of gut feelings, but I wasn't very trained, meaning I'm somebody who, you give me an idea, I'll give you 10 more. Like I'm just very good at, I'm great at brainstorming, I'm great at improv, but that doesn't mean everything I say I do is actually the plan. And I've learned that through some hard knocks of my own. When I really want to tune in and really sit with an idea, I go immediately to what I call the activating part of my money brain, which is a certain skill set. And I show my clients how to do that. I could go A, I could go B, or I could go C. C meaning I'll do something different. So A or B is like usually a yes or no. And when I sit with it and just allow the information to come, then all of a sudden I go, okay, and I'm going to choose this course of action. I know I have still maybe another 12 hours until I actually choose to execute in case there's new information that comes. And I'm going to be good with that. And I'm not going to doubt myself if I go down this course of action, it doesn't work out. Because I too have made money mistakes in my business. But if you asked me at the time, I had no idea.
I love that. I think that's absolutely wonderful. It's going within, asking the right question and then waiting for the answer. It's not grabbing things, it's not rushing things. It's just being open to receiving the answer. And as you said, the more you're trusting your gut, and the more you do it, the the better you become at trusting your gut, which is a wonderful thing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right.
And it's powerful because nobody takes your freedom. Nobody really takes it. And I mean to be free in your heart and in your mind. Nobody can really take that. Laws are all over the place. And we have an ability to get the laws in place where we want it. We have a voice in saying that, and that is democracy, no matter where you're at in the world. But if you live in a very closed society, you still have the right to be free in your heart and your mind to make your choices.
Absolutely. So where can our listeners find out more about you and the fantastic work you're doing?
Thank you. So it's globalmoneycoach.com. And if you really want to know more about me, I have my website, which has the caregiver information. It's JeannieDougherty.com, and I'll spell it. It's Jeannie, kind of like I Dream of Jeannie, the old TV show. And then it's Dougherty, DOUGHERTY.com.
Wonderful. And I would encourage anyone who's listening to go and find out more about Jeannie, because you are an absolute inspiration. I've had such a ball talking with you. Thank you so much. For everyone who's listened in, thank you so much for your company. Until next time, bye-bye for now.
I hope you enjoyed the episode today on the Wealthy Advisor Mindset. Make sure to hit subscribe on your chosen platform to get notifications on upcoming episodes. If this episode made you think of someone who you think would benefit from listening to it, then go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this episode with them, or post it on your social media to share with your friends and colleagues. You can catch the show notes for this episode and any mentioned links in the description. If you're a financial advisor who is struggling to grow your AUM and profits while creating a great work-life balance, and you know it's because your mindset is stopping you, or you have a specific challenge in mind that you would love Nina's feedback on, go to chatswithnina.org and grab a time that works best for you. We'd love to see if we can help you. Once again, it's chatswithnina.org. We will see you in the next episode.